In the vast emptiness between Mars and Jupiter, a faint green light began to move, slow, deliberate, and unnervingly steady. It was first seen from the deserts of Namibia, one of the darkest places on Earth. A group of astrophotographers, using the rare total lunar eclipse to escape all traces of sunlight, pointed their cameras toward the blackest corner of the night sky. They were expecting silent stars, dust, nothing more. Instead, they caught a glimpse of something that shouldn't have been there. The object glowed with a strange emerald hue. It didn't blink like a star or drift like a satellite. It pulsed softly, rhythmically, as if alive. At first, astronomers thought it was just another comet, a frozen traveler of ice and gas reflecting the sun. They named it 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar object ever to enter our solar system. But soon, that name would become more of a question than an answer. As telescopes around the world locked on to the newcomer, they began to notice that 3I Atlas wasn't behaving like any comet we've ever seen. Its brightness changed unpredictably. Its surface composition made no chemical sense. And most strangely, its orbit, the invisible path it traced through space, was so perfectly stable that it almost felt intentional. Every known model failed to explain what it was doing. Scientists adjusted their data, recalculated the math, and still came up short. A comet that glows when it shouldn't. A rock that doesn't drift when it should. A visitor from a place no one can point to on any map of the stars. For now, all we know is this. 3I Atlas shouldn't exist. And yet, it's here glowing in the dark, moving with purpose. As if it has been waiting for us to finally notice. For a moment, scientists thought they could explain it. After all, a green glow isn't unusual for a comet. When sunlight hits molecules of diatomic carbon C, it excites them, making the gas shine a ghostly green. It's chemistry, not magic. Except this time, the chemistry didn't add up. Spectral analysis of 3I Atlas revealed something astonishing. There was almost no Cu at all. In fact, it was deficient in the very molecules that should have made it green. By every known law of physics, this object had no right to glow the way it did. And yet, it did bright, vibrant, unmistakable. If it wasn't diatomic carbon, then what was creating the color? Some pointed to carbon dioxide, CO2, which was found in unusually large amounts around the object. But CO2 doesn't glow green, it only reflects sunlight, never emits it. Others suggested some unknown compound, something exotic that we haven't seen in any comet before. But even that theory began to crumble once the data came in from multiple telescopes around the world. Each observation returned the same impossible result: a brilliant green aura without a natural chemical cause. No heat source, no radiation spike, no logical trigger. Some astronomers began whispering half-jokes in late-night emails. If it's not reacting, one wrote, maybe it's communicating. A joke, of course, but one that no one quite laughed at. Because deep down, they knew what that would mean. If the color wasn't the result of sunlight, then something else was generating it from within. Something we don't yet understand. Something that for the first time might be looking back. As telescopes continued to study 3I Atlas, another anomaly emerged, this time hidden in its breath. Every comet carries a thin halo of gas and dust around it, called a coma, a fragile cloud that tells us what the object is made of. But when scientists began analyzing the light reflecting from Atlas's coma, they found something deeply wrong. It was full of carbon dioxide, far more than any comet should have. In most cases, water vapor dominates frozen ice that sublimates into steam as the comet nears the sun. But this one was almost dry. It was exhaling CO2 instead of water, like a machine venting exhaust instead of breath. Then came the strangest discovery yet: nickel. Heavy metal shining where no heat existed. Under normal conditions, metal like that could only vaporize if it were scorching hot close enough to the sun to melt steel. But 3I Atlas was still drifting between Mars and Jupiter, far too cold for such reactions. And yet, nickel was bleeding out of its coma in measurable quantities. No solar flare, no radiation burst, no plausible explanation. Just a distant object venting metal and gas in a way that looked engineered. It was around this time that a few researchers began to whisper the same thought carefully, quietly, never on record. Rocket exhaust. The signature matched too neatly: nickel-rich alloys, traces of CO2, and a clean, steady emission line as if something inside was burning. Of course, no one could say that publicly. Science demands evidence, not speculation. But as the data accumulated, the silence around it grew heavier. Because if 3I Atlas wasn't a natural object, if it was built, then we weren't just studying a comet anymore. We were staring straight at a machine from another star. Comets move. That's what they do. They heat up as they approach the sun, vent gas, and drift unpredictably through space. It's never perfect. Every burst of vapor acts like a tiny thruster, pushing the comet slightly off course. Astronomers call it non-gravitational acceleration, the invisible hand of sunlight guiding frozen debris. But 3I Atlas doesn't move like that. It doesn't drift or wobble or tilt. Its trajectory has remained almost perfectly constant from the day it was discovered, for 5 straight months. While shedding gas and forming a faint tail, its velocity changed by less than 1.5 kilometers per day. Statistically, that's impossible. Other interstellar visitors behaved nothing like this. 2I Borisov wandered hundreds of kilometers off course every day. Even Hale-Bopp, one of the largest comets ever observed, shifted 10 times more. And then there was Oumuamua, the wild traveler that tumbled through our solar system, accelerating over 1,000 kilometers a day. Against them, Atlas looks unnaturally calm, almost disciplined. The data shows a perfect line, as if the object were holding its heading intentionally, cutting across the void with surgical precision. Some researchers half-joked that it's flying like a spacecraft. Others stopped joking once they realized the math agreed. There is no spin to explain it, no external force to correct it, no known mechanism to keep a comet that steady. It's as if something inside is adjusting its path not randomly, but with purpose. We tell ourselves it's coincidence, a trick of measurement, a statistical fluke. But deep down, everyone studying Atlas knows what it feels like to watch something that moves exactly the way it wants to. And in the silence of the cosmos, that realization is more unsettling than any sound. In 1977, long before anyone knew the name 3I Atlas, a radio telescope in Ohio detected something no one could explain. The Big Ear, a massive structure built to listen for signals from deep space, caught a narrowband transmission that lasted 72 seconds. It was powerful, focused, and came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It wasn't the sun, it wasn't a planet, and it wasn't us. On the data printout, an astronomer circled the spike in red ink and wrote a single word beside it. Wow! That moment became legend in the search for intelligent life. For nearly 50 years, scientists tried to find the same signal again. They never did. The frequency was 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the most universal frequency in the universe. Every civilization capable of studying the stars would know it. If anyone out there wanted to send a message that said, "We exist," this was how they'd do it. Decades later, researchers traced the trajectory of 3I Atlas back through the galaxy. Its origin appeared to line up with Sagittarius, the very same direction the WOW signal came from. It could be coincidence, another trick of perspective. But what if it wasn't? What if that transmission wasn't a random flare from deep space, but a call from something already on its way here? What if, in 1977, we received not a message from the stars, but an arrival notice? Now, as 3I Atlas crosses the inner solar system, glowing that impossible shade of green, one thought lingers. Maybe the signal wasn't asking if anyone was listening. Maybe it was letting us know someone was coming. 3I Atlas is now moving deeper into the inner solar system, tracing a path that seems almost deliberate. Its orbit will soon take it to the far side of the sun, where Earth won't be able to see it for months. Normally, that would be the end of the story. Comets pass, disappear behind the sun, and fade into darkness. But with Atlas, there's always the question, what happens when it comes out the other side? Astronomers predict it should continue on its way, slipping quietly back into interstellar space. Yet the data doesn't feel ordinary. Every simulation shows its speed, its course, its distance from the sun, so exact it borders on precision engineering. Even as its coma releases gas and dust, even as light pressure from the sun tries to nudge it off balance, Atlas holds its line like a guided craft. Space agencies around the world are watching, waiting for even the slightest deviation. Because if, as it passes behind the sun, Atlas slows down or worse, changes direction, it would defy every physical expectation. No natural object can do that. Only something under control could. For now, all anyone can do is wait. The object will vanish behind the solar glare, silent and invisible, for several weeks, and when it reappears, we'll know. If it continues forward, it's just another mystery of the cosmos. But if it's waiting for us, if it stops, then we may no longer be alone in watching the sky. Because for the first time in history, the question isn't just where it's going, it's whether it already knows where we are. For months, the world has been looking up, tracking the slow and perfect movement of 3I Atlas. Telescopes across continents, radio arrays pointed at the void, endless calculations, endless questions. But what if all this time it has been looking back? Every image we've taken shows the same haunting steadiness, the same impossible control. The object doesn't just move through space, it seems to navigate it. And when scientists charted its projected path, one small detail sent a chill through everyone who saw the data. If Atlas continues exactly as it has, its trajectory will pass through a position almost aligned with Earth's orbit, so precise it feels intentional. Maybe it's a coincidence, another trick of celestial geometry. Or maybe, somewhere within that emerald light, there's an intelligence capable of more than we can comprehend. Something that's been watching us not for years, but for centuries, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. When the WOW signal was heard in 1977, we thought we'd caught a whisper from deep space. But what if it wasn't sent to us at all? What if it was sent from us? Not by humanity, but by something already here, stationed on the outskirts, listening, learning. Now that 3I Atlas glows in our night sky, we've become the subject of our own observation. Maybe it isn't here to invade or communicate. Maybe it's here to understand. The only question left is simple and terrifying. If we're watching it and it's watching us, who's really making first contact?